Now, my name is Annie Mugambi, working for National Fund for the Disabled of Kenya. I'm actually here on behalf of Christina Kenyatta Pratt, who was meant to be here. She was not able to be here, and so I do represent her. I hope I will be able to do not as much as she would do, but maybe close to that. Our work is purely to empower persons with disability in Kenya, both socially and economically. A brief history of the fund is that in 1980, those from Kenya know there was a Harambee for persons with disability in Kenya. This Harambee netted about 25 million. At that time, it was really pretty good money. That was put in a trust fund, and that's the National Fund for the Disabled of Kenya. That money was used to purchase 2 buildings, Rehema House and the second Harambee, New Rehema House, both in Nairobi. And we are proud to say that last year we acquired a 3rd property, which is Rehema Place on Gong Road. So we are trying as much as possible not to rely on donors for funding so as to be able to sustain ourselves. The reason we are here today is because we have had an occasion of interacting with Rotarians, most notably KP Doshi, on a number of occasions. Also, your district governor, Harry Mugo, where we've been able to do a few things, but it's not yet enough. And this theme of engage Rotary to change lives actually works with us because we'd like to engage you to work with us. Hence the reason why we'd want to have greenhouses for persons with disability across the country. Now, if you look at our mandate, for you, most of you are business people, and your mission, vision is to look at the bottom line, make profits, and do something else. But when I wake up in the morning, I want to make sure every person in this country has been empowered. And what I would like to present to you, Rotarians, is what we do. Every year, we are able to reach about 2,500 individuals with both mobility aids, the usual wheelchair, tricycle, but we go a step further and give them tools of trade. Reason being that once somebody is able to move, the next thing they would want to do is to earn an income and become independent. So we have in the past been able to give them sewing machines, we do hair salon kits and everything else that we are able to do within our capacity. We also go to schools and give them grants. These grants are in 2 tiers. We could give them up to 200,000 for a project that they are already doing, or we could do a whole project which we call at a cost of about 2.5 million each. So far, we've been able to do 40. This year, by the end of June, we should be able to have identified another 10 because we do 10 every year. So by now, we should be, by June, we would have been having 50 ongoing, completed already, and others at different stages. Now, our source of income is mainly our buildings. We also get a grant from the government, and we also fundraise. Why do we do this? We do this because 4.6% of Kenyans, according to the national survey, are having one form of disability or the other. These are the official figures, but we believe that there are more than that in Kenya. And most of these people actually are in the rural areas. So what we want to do is to break any economic barriers through provision of tools of trade, grants, and lobbying for environment. We also want to have them culturally integrated. So we participate in awareness programs, walks, even by other organizations. We also do help them with physiotherapy so that they're able to be more mobile and to lead a more meaningful life. And we also promote sports, both nationally and internationally, by sponsoring teams that go out. We also have a communication center where we have a brailler to be able to communicate with visually impaired. We also grant people, institutions to purchase that. And we are also learning sign language. In 2 weeks' time, I should be graduating with the sign language, just to be able to integrate them into society. We also look at environment. So these are some of the things that we actually give. Welding kits for those who have that tool, that skill. We'll give a hair salon kit. We will give wheelchairs. We will give tricycles. And we go to now a larger scale. Like for Kajiado AIC, if you can see the corner there, that was what they had before. We were able to put up a building for them here and some latrines, and the kids are there. We have also been able to give them furniture. That is one of the flagship projects we have in the country. We also have gone to St. Mary's. This is in Mwala, where we have an X-ray unit helping the persons, and not only just persons with disability, but this cuts across the entire Machakos district, county. We do dairy cows. We have buildings for them. We have them engaging in income generating activities. We have dormitories. That's a school. Now for this one, I'd like to maybe make an explanation. At the corner there, that's a kitchen they use. We went there, we saw that's a kitchen. We saw this is a classroom subdivided. But this particular school in Rusinga didn't have a dormitory. So we felt that the dormitory was more of a priority. You can eat outside, but you cannot sleep outside. So we gave that as a priority. And we did some classrooms in Buranga, in Kitui for autistic children, in Embu for the hearing impaired. And we say this, a lot is being done to provide mobility equipment, to provide infrastructure. But food security remains a problem for many people living in poverty, but more so for persons with disability. And this is an area where we want to partner with Rotary. Hence, what we presented in the morning, the greenhouse. We just wanted to explain why we want to engage you. We have brick and mortar. We've done that. Several classrooms, several dormitories, several dining halls, but they don't have something to eat. And for us to make them secure, as far as food is concerned, we want to support them. We want to have them having greenhouses. And once you are able to do that, then you're able to feed the entire nation. We have already sponsored a borehole in Karatina, and that's the food they're producing. That food is actually enough not only for the children there, but they are also able to sell it out and earn an income that helps them supplement. Remember, persons with disability have more needs. They will need physiotherapy, they will need medication, they will need extra care, some of them for the rest of their life. So if you're able to help them in just having food, that is one problem out of the list of their of their needs. So that's what you want, and we want a happier world for these children, for every person with disability. Thank you so much for giving me. I had been given 10 minutes. I think I've used 5. I didn't want them to sleep. Thank you so much, and we hope we will be able to engage you for better lives. Thank you.
Rotary is the power of organized people. All of you. Yes, you and me and all of us here, most of us, apart from the interactors and rotaractors, are supposed to be successful business and professional persons. So we are going to look about the raison d'etre to know whether we are still relevant or not. We have our motto of service above self. We know the motto of the Rotary Foundation of doing good in the world. And I'd like to suggest to you that membership is everything. Membership is everything you may want to think about in the Rotary, whether it is the foundation, whether it is the project, whether it is whatever, it revolves around membership. I don't know about you, but I am tired of the statistic of 1.2 million Rotarians in the world. That has been quoted so many years, more than a decade, that Rotarians only number 1.2 million. But before we go anywhere, let's look at the perception. Because in spite of all the good works, all the good intentions that we have, the perception out there about us is not so charitable. It's not so favorable. We are looked at as Freemasons, as some secret society, some exclusive, snobbish club, wealthy people who are driven by a sense of guilt, as old men's club, and of rich people who might dine, who meet to dine. Occasionally, they remember that you are selfless people who serve the needy. Is one set of perceptions that you have. I don't think we should apologize about being rich or successful. Certainly not, because that's what we should be. It's part of the definition of Rotary, of a Rotarian. But we are about service. We are not about age, not about gender, not about race, not about color. Rather, we are about values and like-mindedness. That is why recruitment in the Rotary is by invitation, so that we can keep those principles, those values that we hold dear. Because as we invite these people, we want to make sure that our values are going to be maintained. We are preoccupied with acquaintance, with high ethical standards, with service, and with peace. So those are dear values that we like to maintain. And so, the membership is by invitation. And therefore, since it is by invitation, all our reservations about membership and all the talk about quality is something we should accept as our fault. We should accept defeat. We should acknowledge that we are guilty of the status that we see. First of all, we are too few. Secondly, we have some quality issues. Thirdly, we tend to be rather old. Rotarians must accept the blame for these conditions. What do we want to see of Rotarians in the year 2020? Will they be successful, dynamic, passionate, full of ideas, full of drive to get things done? Will they be passionate? Will they be full of ideas and connected? Will they be younger than we are? Those are questions that we need to think about. As was said this morning, all of us come from the previous century. And the tendency is that we may want to use the 20th century answers to deal with the 21st century problems. will our new members of 2020 of the 21st century be contemporary? Shall we ourselves be contemporary? Shall we be relevant and prevalent? I don't think we want a situation where Rotarians in 2020 will look like what we have in this hall except 10 years older. We need the 21st century solutions to deal with the 21st century issues of Rotary. Where are we today? This planet Earth now comprises about 7 billion human beings, but only 1.2 million Rotarians in 200 plus countries and geographic regions. And we've been alive as an organization for 109 years, goodness me, 109 years. And we seem to be so happy and proud of talking about 1.2 million in 200 countries. You can calculate the ratios of growth of 109 years. You can calculate other figures related to that. But I'd like to suggest to you, fellow Rotarians, that 1 out of 7 billion is nothing to write home about. Indeed, it is embarrassing. What of Africa? Africa has about 1 billion people. It's a great continent. I don't know how many of you know that you can fit the entire North America, fit the whole of Europe, throw in India, and you still have space left on that continent. Many times you're in the US or in Europe, people will tell you, I'm going to Africa, as if it is one country. They have no idea. Unfortunately, most of the maps we see in atlases use the wrong projection, so they don't give us the proper impression of what this continent is. They use the Mercator, which tends to exaggerate the areas on the sides. So Africa stands there in the middle and looks like a little continent. But it is such a continent that I always tell people when I go to North America, in particular, that it takes me 5 hours from Entebbe to go to Cairo, 5 hours from Entebbe to go to Johannesburg or close to that, and I'm not yet in Alexandria, and I'm not in Cape Town. So you still have a lot of space left. It takes you 5 hours to fly from Nairobi to Nigeria, to Lagos, and you are not yet in Senegal. That is the size of our continent. But 1 billion population with only 15 Rotary districts is a disservice to our people. And see how many Rotarians we are. 29,000, including North Africa. Mohammed has told you about 25. Yes, that is true for sub-Saharan Africa. If you include North Africa, we are talking of a mere 29,000 Rotarians in 1,200 Rotary clubs. And guess what? We are only part of a zone, part of Zone 20. This is not good enough. It's not sustainable. I'd like to report to you that as your immediate past director on the RI board, I had 74 countries to look after. 74. That includes the whole of Africa, East Mediterranean, Eastern Europe, Central Asia. Some countries I cannot even spell. Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, some of those countries, those Eastern countries. They're all part of our zone. So you can imagine having one person as a director in charge of that area. It's an impossible task. It's a task really designed to make us inefficient and incompetent. But the good news is that we have the solutions. The solution is actually in our hands. It's all about numbers. The threshold for us to be considered as a zone is 35,000 Rotary. So if we're 29, you can see that we really do not have far to go to get to the threshold for us to be considered for a zone. We have seen some sterling performance in this region. Mauritius, Seychelles join Iceland as the best per capita countries in the Rotary. We've seen outstanding growth of Rotary in Uganda and recently in Kenya, but we still have room to go. We can still do a lot better. Uganda today is just about the fastest growing Rotary country in this region, at least on the continent. That means it is doable. And that means we can actually replicate the performance. And therefore, I'd like to invite you to join me in a dream, because I happen to be an incorrigible optimist. So I'd like to invite you to join me in a dream and dream big, because we have the answers and we only need to get out and do the job. I'm told that optimism, enthusiasm is contagious, Yusuf, isn't it? The doctors confirmed it is contagious. And therefore, I'd like you to join me in my dream, in my enthusiasm, and I hope you'll catch the virus so that we can go out and do what we need to do. I've said several times in our own fora here and elsewhere that this is, in my view, the century for Africa and the century for Asia in Rotary terms. And I think we can do it. The power of Rotary is shifting from the west towards the east. As I speak today, we have directors of Rotary International from Korea, from Taiwan, from India. Of course, you know that the next president of Rotary International will come from Taiwan. Power is shifting to the east, all because of numbers. And I'm saying this should be the century for Africa because we need Rotary the most. We have the greatest need. And therefore, we are doing ourselves a service if we grow the numbers so that we can do more work for our own communities. And as somebody said, we cannot do that by evolution. We need to be revolutionary. I do not believe that any of us here can confess to the fact that we can go over 52 weeks or 12 months of a year without finding somebody or meeting somebody who is good Rotary material. 365 days, you're in and out of offices, in your house and so on, meeting all types of people. I'm sure we meet more than one person who qualifies to be a Rotarian. What does that mean? We need to do something. We can change these numbers. So, I suggest, fellow Rotarians, that we adopt a formula of 0.01 as our goal. for growing Rotary on this continent. 0.01% of the population. We can all work this out for our different countries. What does that mean? Yinka, it means that Nigeria should have 17,000 Rotarians. That Ethiopia should be targeting 9,000 Rotarians for the 90 million people. That Tanzania should be close to 5,000 Rotarians. I think they are close to 50 million people. I'm not quite sure about the population in Kenya, but I believe by 2020, Kenya will be close to 50 million or 48 million thereabouts. And therefore, I think that Kenya should be 4,800 Rotarians. Uganda with 34 million should have 3,400 Rotarians. And we can go on and on. We can all work for different countries in the continent. Uganda is not very far from that target, by the way. And we have a strategy to get there. You might consider that ambitious, but it is doable. There's no point making goals if they don't challenge you. And therefore, I like all of us to go away with 0.01% of the population as the goal to work towards. That way, we'll be doing ourselves a lot of favor, and I will show you how. We blame a lot on quality very often. Yes, we have that issue, but as I've said already, it is our own problem. It is an excuse, it is a diversion, it is an escapism. Why? Because we are the people who invite these people. If we invite like-minded people, if we invite our associates and friends, why do we have to go in for poor quality? If they are correct quality, then let's look at the problem that makes them leave. Maybe we are not mentoring them right, we are not involving them, or there are issues with our own clubs and other things. So let's look at that. Otherwise, as the judge, as the inviters, as the jury, we Rotarians must plead guilty for failing to do the right job. Because there are certainly better people out there for us to invite. And as I say, in 52 weeks, we meet weekly. You are certainly meeting good material out there that we can invite people who are eligible to be Rotarians. So what's the strategy? First of all, let's know that 70% of the population on this continent is under 30. 70% of the populations in this continent is under 30 years old. What does that mean? Can we ignore that population? Can we? Only at your peril. We cannot afford to ignore. So what does that mean? We have to find strategies that will take care of the 70% of the people. Many of our clubs in different countries are faced with the challenges of aging population because there is a disconnect there. We like to stay in the comfort zone and we are not looking at the dynamics in the population. We need to do something. So my suggestion is, and the suggestion which has worked, is a strategy that has worked, is let's go out and form as many Interact clubs as there are secondary schools around us. Next, let's go out as many Rotaract clubs as we can in the community and in the tertiary institutions, community or institutional based. What will happen is that the Interact will catch the value, catch the virus, and after secondary school, they will be looking for Rotaract clubs. The Rotaractors, when they finish, will be looking either to continue in a community-based Rotaract club as they mature in their professions, and then there's only one way to go, up. So what do we end up with? Continuous flow, vertical flow of these youngsters from Interact to Rotaract to Rotary. My governor is here, but I can tell you that in Uganda today we don't worry about membership because we have a continuous flow of Rotaractors, of former Rotaractors into Rotary. And they are doing a great job. In my own club, which is the oldest club in Uganda, 5 of the last 7 presidents, including the current ones, are former Rotaractors. And my current president called me this morning just to check how it is going, and I told her, she's a young lawyer, doing a great job, consulting a lot with the senior Rotarians, and getting all the help. That's the way to go. It's the way to go. We should be there for them. And it's not enough just to form Rotaract clubs or Interact clubs. We must mentor them. We must be available to them. We must be accessible. These are our children. And I'd like to suggest to you that you don't produce children and then expect them to ask permissions to come and see you. In many parts of the world, that's the case. Rotaractors cannot go to Rotary clubs except by some special arrangement. And that is the trick. That is what has worked in Uganda. We are accessible. They don't need invitations or permission to come to Rotary clubs. That way, they feel welcome, they feel integrated, they feel involved, and they don't just attend. They actually participate. And they can challenge some of the discussions that we put forward. That's the way. Back to the growth strategy. I can't cover all the countries in the district, but let me just look at Kenya where we happen to be. Look at the regional, provincial, district, county. I believe now you have county arrangement and the provincial perhaps or regional. I'd like to suggest to you that every county in this country, and I believe there are 47 or so counties in Kenya under the new devolution constitution, each one of those is a Rotary club possibility. Just look at the towns where those counties are based or administered from, and you have a ready-made possibility. Why? Because each of those is a mini central government. If you look at the central government and all the ministries and all the departments, all the commissioners and whatever the specializations, they are represented in those counties. In case of Uganda, in the districts. They're all there. So you don't have to go very far to look for professionals. And each of those towns will have all manner of private practitioners, gynecologists, different doctors, surgeons, whatever ophthalmologists are there. They have bankers, they have auditors, they have bookkeepers, they have whatever classification you like to think of are there. And therefore, at those district towns, those county towns, as potential Rotary clubs. And you want to go very wrong. So therefore, outside of Nairobi and Mombasa cities, Kisumu perhaps, look at these 47 places and you see that is the potential you have in Kenya. Apart from that, Nairobi is still empty. You can have another 10 Rotary clubs in Nairobi, easily. Just by way of illustration, Nairobi is almost twice the size of Kampala. We have 30 Rotary clubs in and around Kampala. 30. So we have work to do around Kenya. And you can say that for every other city. If you look at Addis, it's a huge city, huge population. Look at the suburbs. Look at the central part of the city. You can create so many new clubs. Also, good customer care tells us that we need to provide opportunities. We need to care about our customers. Maybe lunchtime does not suit me. The traffic is too congested that time. The space time-wise is too tight. Can't drive from one end to the Rotary meeting and go back. So give me another opportunity to attend a meeting. Maybe an evening club, maybe a morning club, breakfast club. What does that mean? That means, ladies and gentlemen, that every place where you have a Rotary club today, you could have another 2. If you already have a lunchtime club, consider breakfast, consider an evening club, maybe 3 even, and a dinner club, so that you give me an opportunity to find something that is convenient to me. So, vision for Africa by 2020 is that I'm looking at an Africa with 2 Rotary zones. Africa is much too important for us to be just an appendage of Zone 20. I'm looking at 2 Rotary zones. What does that mean? That means that we'll have a permanent presence on the board of Rotary International, because there are 34 zones of Rotary International and they alternate. So if we have 2 and we have one part of the zone represented 2 years, the other one will be the next one, the next 2 years, and we keep going. Just as we're happening in India, happening in Korea, and some of these other places, which are much smaller countries. I see an Africa with approximately 100,000 Rotarians based on the 0.01% of the population of the continent. I see an Africa with 30 districts from 15. I see an Africa with 1,500 clubs from 1,200 Rotary clubs. And therefore I see an Africa with a presence on the Rotary International Board. I see an Africa with a large, strong and diversified Rotary membership, with stronger clubs, greater impact of services and values on the ground, greater local and global visibility, and increased finances and sustainability. Just in case you think that is ambitious, let me tell you, Taiwan, a small country, has 7 Rotary districts. 7 Rotary districts with 21,875,000 Rotarians. Taiwan. Even more impressive is South Korea. Korea, in the Rotary, of course, we just talk about Korea because there's no Rotary in Northern Korea. Korea has 17 Rotary districts with more than 60,000 Rotarians. And no wonder they have a permanent presence on the board of Rotary International. So as we sit back and feel comfortable where we are shooting ourselves in the foot. We'll continue to be marginalized. And yet, the solution is with us. In March, my wife and I were in New Zealand to represent the president of Rotary International at a district conference just like this one. Small country, only 4 million people. Never mind the 30 million sheep and so many million cows. But there are only 4 million human beings. But they have 6 districts. Admittedly, that includes some of the islands, the Fiji, the Polynesians, and so on, but there are 6 districts. So, continuing with my vision, my smart vision is that Nigeria should be 7 districts. We already talked about 17,000 Rotarians. That should translate into 7 districts. I see South Africa back to 5 districts. They used to have 5 districts. They've shrunk, now they're down to 3 districts. I see Egypt as 2 districts. I see Uganda as 3 districts. You can see my governor here. I don't know if he agrees with me, but I see him nodding, and I see somebody next to him. We are very close to 2 districts, by the way, in Uganda. With close to 2,500 Rotarians already. And I know that the governor nominee has some very interesting strategies which will see that done. I see Kenya as 2 districts. I see Tanzania as 1 district. I see Ghana as 1 district. And I see the rest of Africa grouped in different ways into 10 more districts. So we are talking about 20 plus districts. Those other single country districts are 10, and then the rest of the continent divided into another 10, or grouped into another 10 districts. Conclusion. Rotary values, our preoccupations, our concerns are still relevant. They remain relevant. So we are still relevant. Our communities continue to need our services. In fact, because of the successes that we've had, they expect more. They expect more. Because success has its own challenges, comes with the challenges, and they expect to see us doing more. So this morning, it is actually self-serving. We benefit more than the people we try to serve. Numbers and proximity are important. We cannot expect to serve a place 100 kilometers away from Nairobi, from Naivasha, from Kisumu. So we need to be closer to the people that we. So these goals are desirable and doable. Let's go out, let's work, let's go for them, and let's serve our people better. Thank you very much for your attention.
There are only 2 Rotarians on the continent of Africa who qualify to be somewhere. He's been a director, he is a trustee of the Rotary Foundation, he has a dream, I have a dream, we have a dream. And what is our dream? To see him there as the RI President. Please, I think you need to stand up and give him that ovation and pray for him, and let's motivate him to be there. Session chair. We'll observe the protocol as session chair and then we'll continue. I'm going to request my DRFC team, Sudesh, Hans, Richard. I can see Eric is there. He'll have to spare a few moments to please come forward here because you will be needed. And what we're going to do here this afternoon in the few minutes which we have, we are not going to do a training for you, but we're going to tell you this conference we are celebrating. We are celebrating Harry Mugo. We are celebrating our district 9212, our first year as a district. So we need to tell you what have we achieved. Are we worthy of celebrations, or do we really need to pull up our socks and see which way is the way forward for us? So in this presentation, As your DRFC chair, I first want to introduce these gentlemen, why they are sitting here. Our trustee told us that as a director, he had to look after 74 countries. These guys sitting here, this is the regional team for Rotary Zone 20A. I'm the Rotary coordinator. Yinka is the Regional Rotary Foundation coordinator. Joe Otin is the Regional Public Image coordinator. And Joshua Hassan is the Rotary Peace Center's Major Gift Initiative Committee member. And we have 7 districts to look after, and it is 21 countries in Africa. So little bit less PTG Sam, but this is the regional team. Can I ask them to stand up? And can we give them a big hand? So you will be listening to all of them. And in this session, as far as the Rotary Foundation is concerned, what do? It's about funds. We make contributions, and these contributions, they go into a system, the share system, from where it is converted into grants, and grants are converted into projects. And we as District 9212 have been undertaking projects, and the list is very, very long. And PTG Mohammed has taken the initiative to look at that. Now, why these funds are important? So if we do not have these funds, we cannot do much. So we devolved the District Rotary Foundation Committee. Devolution seems to be the in thing. So we have had a committee for Western Kenya. George Muera is here. George, come on. And we've got a committee. Dang is everything as far as South Sudan is concerned. So Dang, Dang, please be upstanding. Please come forward. Dang, yeah, they need to see you. So we have a committee in South Sudan. We have Kenya is much bigger than the other countries. So we have got 3 committees in Kenya. Central Kenya is led by PDG Eric. PDG Eric has been taking the initiative on the funds as well as the training. And we got a committee at the coast, which is myself, and I'm going to involve some more members from the coast. And George has been looking after Western Kenya. And similarly, we got a committee in Ethiopia. Yamane, please be upstanding for your PDG Tadese. Please be here. So we have 4 committees, and each of these committees is functioning as a District Rotary Foundation committee for within that, so that we can achieve what we need to achieve. We are a very big district, and by devolving, we hope that we are going to be able to achieve. So these are the guys who do all the work, including PDG Eric there. So this is called devolution and delegation. So I need to only delegate and then enjoy the work which they do. Thank you. What happened to us? It was a great success to redistrict, but at the same time, we lost out on numbers. And those numbers, what PDG Sam is talking about, are more relevant to us as District 9212 than anybody else. With those numbers, we also lost the countries which used to make the maximum contribution to the Rotary Foundation, Uganda and Tanzania. We ended up by getting only $12,227 into our district grant for 2013-14. We become a poor district, and we're going to be more poor in the coming year. Bimal, yeah, that's why he's pulling up his socks. We're getting only $3,700 into our district grant. So we are now a Maskini district, and with less numbers, our administration, like Harry has told you, is also a problem. So we need the numbers and we need the contributors. So to be able to raise more funds, we initiated, and we had a good opportunity when our President-elect Gary Huang was coming over. We used that opportunity to launch our Paul Harris Society. So I will request Eric and Richard to please come forward and just give us a little bit on the Paul Harris Society and what success have you achieved.
I am supposed to tell you what have we achieved during this 2013-14 in scholarships and vocational team training. Vocational team training, we had under package grant with Aga Khan University Hospital, medical vocational team training, which has trained nurses. We had vocational team training team from under global grant with Rotary Club of Karen, Rotary Club of Nairobi North, Rotary Club in Ethiopia, and all medical teams. Then scholarships. Under Peace Scholarship, we had one candidate who will be completing her scholarship this year, 2-year scholarship. We have one candidate studying in under package grant with in Netherlands for water and water management. And for next year, we have interviews going on for Peace Scholarships. We have already submitted 5 applications for water management. And we hope to have at least 4 VTT coming to Kenya, and Ethiopia at least 1, maybe 2, and under package grant with Aga Khan University Hospital, 1 VTT, medical VTT will continue. I just want to add to this, this is what we have achieved, this is what our vision is, but Rotarians, when you submit an application and your candidate has been selected, so don't forget that you still have the responsibility towards your scholars. And these are like grants, and every 12 months you have to submit report to Rotary Foundation on your grant. So treat them as your grants, stay in touch with your candidate wherever he or she is studying, and submit the report in time. Don't forget that your role continues until the candidate has come back.
Some years ago, when I was in Canada as a new Canadian there, I spoke at a district conference and I gave my perspective of what Rotary is, particularly with my African background. And I couldn't believe the response that I received, particularly when I explained to them that had it not been for the foundation, Rotary Foundation, Rotary would be totally irrelevant. And I say this because where I lived in Western Canada, there were large Rotary clubs who would never donate to become Paul Harris Fellows. They will wait the club to make them Paul Harris Fellows. But after my speech at this district conference, I received a note from one of the delegates that he wanted to see me. And I met with him. He was a gentleman, elderly gentleman in a wheelchair. And he said that I've never been asked, I never knew what foundation has done for the humanity at large. Can I start contributing? Can I do something? And as a result of that and that speech, I became the fundraiser for the foundation for the next 3 years in our district. Now, I know that the foundation does tremendous amount of work, but I didn't realize what work it has done in the last 2-3 years. And it's only when, by fluke, I received some information, I started to analyze the information. I want to share that information with you because I was really pleased. What I did was to analyze the projects in our district as at 18th of March 2014. This is the country-wise funding that you have received. Ethiopia, just over $1 million for 18 projects. Juba has got one project or 100,000. Kenya, 4.2 millions for 54 projects. A total of 5.4 million for 73 projects. I think you should clap for yourselves. It is very important to note this. Which clubs are involved? Ethiopia has got 9 Rotary clubs. 8 clubs are involved and they are in receipt of over $1 million. Juba has got only 1 club for $116,000. Kenya, out of about 55 to 60 clubs, 26 clubs have received, are currently enjoying the grant of 4.2 million. That is a rough analysis. Altogether, 35 clubs in our district, out of about 60 clubs, have received the benefit of 5.4 million from the Rotary Foundation. Now, these are some of the largest projects in our district. Utumishi, look at the sizes of the project, over $250,000. Muthaiga, fairly large projects. Karen, Nairobi, 150,000. Nakuru Rift Valley, 166,000. Nakuru, 2 projects fairly large, and it also says what sort of projects they are. The water and sanitation. Meru, over 100,000. 2 projects. Thika, 118,000. South Sudan, Juba, 117,000. Addis West, of $175,000 worth of project, 1 project, and Addis Ababa, 100,000. There's one project I could not find for which country it is. Which, you got that information? Okay, but it's a close to $300,000 project. So you'll see that out of about 5.4 million, 2.5 million are for 15 large projects. You can see now here, Rotary clubs. Muthaiga has got 6 projects over $500,000. Meru, 6 projects over 400,000. Nakuru, 4 projects. Naivasha, 4 projects. Machakos, 3. Kisumu, 3. Utumishi, 2. Rift Valley, Nakuru, 2. And these are all other Rotary clubs with 2 projects. Very impressive. And these are the Rotary clubs with 1 project and the amount of funding. So in Kenya, we have 26 clubs engaged in 54 projects totaling $4.2 million. Ethiopia, Addis West, 7 projects. Well done. 440,000. Another club with 4 projects, and the rest of the projects are there for Ethiopia. And altogether, 8 clubs, 18 projects, just over $1 million. Congratulations. Now, did you see the name of your club? Your club can also be the recipient of the Rotary Foundation grant, and you can make a difference.
My name is Hans Scholl. I'm from the Rotary Club of Muthaiga, and I'm the district stewardship chair, and I'm the one who's always sitting on your toes when you're not doing what is required. Now, the qualification for this year was, I must say, a bit, I would call it shameful for our district, because we had only 2 clubs in Ethiopia qualified and 19 in Kenya. And when we look at the total number, it is really below all standards. Up to yesterday, I was of the opinion it's no interest from the clubs, but I think the whole thing is a bit different, because when we were doing the pilot project of Future Vision, we had a lot of money coming into the district because we were limited only to deal with other pilot clubs and districts. So that was for us a given fund which we received because the other clubs they were normally dealing before were out of that business. Now, as the whole thing is open to Tom, Dick and Harry, everybody, a lot of other donors went back to their previous clubs, and we have had only few projects coming into Kenya from outside. And that, in my opinion, finally is the reason why we have only a little number of clubs qualified, because part of these clubs were qualified due to the pressure from the other side, the donor side. So without qualification, no project. I hope that with the coming year, we also have one thing in our mind as Rotarians, that we in Kenya develop the projects, and we are not rubber stamping the projects coming from outside. Because we know what the beneficiaries would like to have, what they need, and then we can go shopping around for people which will give us our money.
Well, coming on to encouraging the projects. Now, if you develop a project as a Rotary Club from here, they have a District 9211 were also quite kind to us, and we did inherit about $50,000. Thank you, Emmanuel. So we do have some money in the DDF, and we have resolved at our last meeting that if the project is originated by yourselves as the Rotary Club, we will match it up to $3,000 from the DDF. You put in 3 or 3 plus, DDF will put in 3 to the first 6. So we allocated about $18,000 for that, and we said if the project is from overseas, we'll match it to $1,000 only. And on this note, see, we cannot authorize unless the club is qualified. So the qualifications will take place all over in the 4 zones which we have divided in July, and we'll sit down with the governor elect Bimal and give you the dates.
Our Rotary Foundation doing good in the world. The mission, our mission, and I want you to note what I called it, our Rotary Foundation. I didn't say the Rotary Foundation, our Rotary Foundation. Mission, world understanding, building goodwill and peace. Our areas of focus. I'm sure many of you have seen this, so you must be tired of seeing them by now. Peace and conflict prevention, 6 areas, disease prevention and treatment. Everything you have there. My personal belief is there's actually nothing really that is important a club will want to do that you may not find a way of classifying under one of the 6 areas of focus. And those of you who know about the Millennium Development Goals, you can actually tie them very neatly to the 6 areas of focus. How do we fund our programs? This is one of the ones that sometimes look very complicated, and the last set of speakers mentioned it one way or the other. When you contribute money to the fund, it becomes available to you everything 3 years after. 50% as what we call DDF, District Designated Fund, and 50% to the World Fund. And 25% of the total becomes available to you as your district grant that you can use to do anything that you want, and the rest you then need to go through global grants and things like that. What is our rating like? Take a look at that. The charity rating agencies rated Rotary 4-star, A+. Only 2% of our funds went into administration, and I think about 7 or 9% into fund development. So what does this mean? Our foundation transforms your gifts into projects that change lives. You will hardly find anywhere around the world a big office, a big vehicle, a jeep, being fueled by money from the Rotary Foundation. I don't know how clear this is, but I wanted to call your attention to it. because Mohammed and Varinda talked about projects. This is for the last Rotary year 2012-13, the program expenditure by region. Can you see how much came to the African continent? 58 million US dollars. I can see many of you saying, 58 million US dollars came to this continent from our Rotary Foundation. Keep that figure at the back of your mind because I will refer to it later. Let me give you some recent updates for your information. The trustees of the foundation at their last meeting had some decisions around the alumni, and I hope you can read it yourself. The important thing here is that the definition of alumni is changing. So it's not just the foundation alumnus. It also includes Interact, Rotaract, Rotary Youth Exchange, Rotary Leadership, RILA, and Co. All the good things Past Director Sam mentioned. And even within the foundation, old foundation alumni, there are some interesting ones. So even people that benefited from your district grant scholarships also qualify. Your VTT teams, members and leaders qualify. The New Generation Service Exchange qualify. And of course, the existing ones from the Ambassadorial Scholarship, Group Study Exchange, and the rest. The other one that may be of interest to you is that you can now use your district grant to fund education and humanitarian training, such as scholar orientation seminars, grant management seminars. They are now eligible to be eligible expense within the district grants. I think we discussed this at Rota, and I'm happy to note that at least with the district grant, you can now do low-cost shelters. Building wasn't allowed before. And I wanted to make a quick comment about a gentleman who went to a wedding party and was not served food. At the end of the party, he complained, "Nobody served me food." And he was asked, "Do you have somebody in the kitchen?" Because if you have somebody in the kitchen, the person will point. "You see that man in blue? Go give him." I think for this board of trustees, we had somebody in the kitchen. So an issue like low-cost shelter that is of importance to those of us from this part of the continent got on the agenda. I know Trustee Sam is even fighting that it should qualify for global grants. So it's important. I just want to mention so we know why we need to deliver on your vision so we can have people in the kitchen. Planned phase out of package grants and strategic partner relationships. And to be honest, this was one I had hoped I was going to ask Trustee Sam, what does it really mean? Does it mean package grant as a grant type after the current ones we have elapsed will cease to exist? And he has just told me, which means that is exactly what it is. So please take note of that. On the recognition side is that they want additional recognition levels for Ashclum Society members and Bequest Society members. Currently for Ashclum, there are only 3 recognition levels. 250 to 500,000, 500,000 to 1 million, and above 1 million. But there are new levels will be created. I think we are getting more money, so we want to elevate those who give us much more. Now, you remember that amount of money I mentioned, 59 million for grants. There are issues around it, stewardship, and I think in the course of Varinda's statement, he mentioned it quickly. What exactly is stewardship? Ensuring that the foundation funds are used in responsible and transparent manners. Let's remember, we assume Rotarians must be the best of the best. But it's also true that we are a representation of the bigger community. Stewardship is for educating Rotarians on proper grant management and compliance. And why is this important? We need to maintain donor confidence, because the people think the money they give to us is pocketed by a few, that they won't give us more. The reputation of our organization and enhancing Rotarian ownership of the grant projects. I'll tell you some stories as I give you examples later on. Have there been problems? Yes, there have been. There were over 100 allegations of misuse or mismanagement in the last 5 years. In fact, 65 audits or investigations are ongoing currently. And problems range from lack of understanding of the grant guidelines to outright embezzlement. So there are issues of non-compliance and there are issues of outright fraud. Currently, 65 grants are under investigation for such allegations. What are the type of problems we have seen? Diversion, embezzlement of funds, false documentation, irresponsible management, conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, and I hope many of us understand what that means. And of course, individuals monopolizing grants. So you go to a club and you say, oh, your club is doing this project. And the city president says, which project? No, there's a $200,000 project from the Rotary Fund. I say, no, I'm not aware of it. So who is aware of it? Who signed the applications? Who are the signatories to the account? I'm mentioning the investigation process because there have been some consequences and people have wondered if the investigation has been thorough or at least fair. And this is how it goes, and it finally ends up with the stewardship committee that takes some decisions. When there are issues, what are the options for resolution? You see, the English word used there, reinvest funds back into the project. It simply means the money you stole, just bring it. If you bring it back and you put it back in the project, we will keep our mouth shut. That's all what it means. Return the grant funds. Don't do the project anymore, just give us our money back. Request a stewardship plan or training. Suspend individuals or clubs or districts from participation. And people have been suspended in our zone, including past district governors that have been banned for 10 years from having anything to do with Rotary Foundation grants. Clubs have been terminated, and there have been a few cases where there have been litigation when people refuse to return the money. The stewardship committee does some random audits, and just to make sure that we do some checks and get things before they go out of hand. And some of the common findings: funds turned over to cooperating organizations. What does that mean? There's a Rotary Foundation project, there's money, and the club gets the money and hands it over to a third organization that is cooperating and leave them to spend it any way they like. No involvement. Lack of participation. Lack of financial documentation. And I do realize that there are some issues we grapple with on our continent. I mean, when I go to buy fuel, diesel, I don't collect receipts at the station. But the foundation comes and says, okay, you bought fuel to do that, we want the receipts. Insufficient financial management, insufficient project planning, deviations from project budget resulting in ineligible expenses. I saw a case where a project was, a case of a project under investigation, and in the withdrawals in the bank statement, it says X amount of money, purpose, logistics. The same amount of money, about 7 times, logistics. What is this logistics? What can we do to ensure proper stewardship? Follow implementation plan, have strong Rotarian participation. And let me mention this. This is affecting us currently. Because if clubs are weak, they can't do projects. You can't ask a 5-man club, for example, to execute a $200,000 project in a location that is 200 kilometers away from them. How are they going to do it? And that is where qualification is important, and that is why we need to be bold to tell some of the clubs, yes, we know you have a need, but you just can't manage it. You don't have execution capacity to do it. The compliance issues, bidding process. Goods or services purchased should be highest quality at the lowest price. I mean, these are basic things we do in our businesses. And when it comes to Rotary's funds, we ignore them. Payments should be made directly to vendors. In fact, we've seen a case where there's actually an invoice, a receipt from a vendor, and in the course of the audit, the vendor says, oh yes, I remember this receipt, but I was only given 10% of the money. They asked me for a receipt, a blank one, so I gave it to them. But no, I got 10% of the money. Are there issues with this district? Yes, there are. Global grants, those ones from Rotary Club of Kisumu, a few things that the foundation is still expecting. Rotary Club of Kilifi, Rotary Club of Maseno, they've actually been asked to refund 239,000 Kenyan shillings, and they've started refunding it. Rotary Club of Viega has been suspended from participating in TRF grants until 30th April 2018 on the condition that they behave well. Otherwise, and the request has been sent to them to return some of the funds. And let me mention that a lot of times, this is not necessarily that people are intentionally fraudulent. A lot of times it's just carelessness, lack of details, and things like that. But when you deal with other people's money, you just have to be strict. Now, we've talked about what we can do with the money. We talked about the credibility of the Rotary Foundation. We talked about the stewardship. Now, why should you give to the Rotary Foundation? Why give to the Rotary Foundation? Wouldn't you like to give your money to an organization that is rated A+? To an organization that you just had is pursuing people to return money not properly spent? Wouldn't you want to give your money to that organization? Wouldn't you want to give your money to the organization that spends almost everything you give to them on what you've asked them to use it for? I showed you this earlier and I asked you to keep the figure. And there were some figures already mentioned by PDG Mohammed. For District 9212, 89 grants are actually opened, 31 Club 57 partners, $6 million US. At this point. So 6 of the 56 billion for Africa is for District 9212, one of the 15 districts that we have. But let us see how District 9212 has given. From the last record I saw, I think at the end of April, about $80,000 total given to the Rotary Foundation this year. 40 of your 65 clubs have not given a shilling. 40 zero giving clubs, 40. 65% of the clubs in this district have not given one dime to our foundation. If we continue to take from it and we don't give it, it will die. For the annual giving, only 131 Rotarians of our over 1,200 Rotarians have given something to the foundation this year. And I'm sure that includes the 20-something who are members of the PLENARY Society. 131. 8%. 8%. Nothing. And I'm not talking about $1,000. I'm not talking about 80,000 shillings. I'm talking about 10,000 shillings, 2,000 shillings. This is our foundation. Polio got so close to Kenya. You know, I'm passionate about polio because my country is the one shaming the rest of Africa. But you see, only 9 clubs contributed to the polio fund from this district. How do we compare? How does this district compare with the others? Take a look yourself. Because I know some of you are already rationalizing in your minds that, oh no, those other people may be rich, this, our people, economy is bad. We are comparing you with the rest of Africa now. Some places you know. I'm not sure the economy is worse in Kenya than in Uganda or in Tanzania. Look at 9211. Governor Katonge, I hope I pronounce it right. 4 times, Katongole, sorry. 4 times 9212. Does that mean Rotarians in 9212 are 4 times poorer than 9211? It is not true. You are not. It is just that you have decided you don't want to give. Okay, I changed my mind. It's not that you've decided. Somebody has not asked you like I'm asking you to do now. Do you think we compare well? I won't give a judgment, you know. I'm sure you know the solution. So what do we need to do? The answer is simple. Just contribute. We have the money, but it is still in your pockets. It's in your pockets. You need to bring them. $100 per capita every Rotarian every year. Kenyan shillings 8,500 only. Less than 1,000 shillings per month. Okay, is there anybody in this room seated here that cannot afford 1,000 Kenyan shillings? The example that was given some time ago was that if you spend a weekend at one of those nightclubs in Nairobi, you probably spend 10 times that at the city. And for the guys, if you find a beautiful lady you want to impress, that is even a smaller amount of money. But you don't want to give to our Rotary Foundation that is doing so much good in the world, in our community. Contribute, recurring giving. I hear people say, but I'm a PHF. Yes, you're a PHF. 15 years ago. You think that $1,000 we've not finished using it? We used it that same year. It's gone. The hungry people are still out there. So please don't pride on I'm a PHF of 3 years ago. If we leave it to you, then there will be no water anywhere again in Kenya for Rotary clubs to do. You're a PHF, please become a PHF plus something. +1, +2, become a major donor. In fact, I was going to come have a quiet conversation with the only AKS we have in this district and ask whether we can persuade him to join one of those other levels they are talking about. He said, the next level, yes. You can give monthly, quarterly, or annually, and that is the Rotary Direct. That's the other one I want to call your attention to. I know it is difficult making transfers. In fact, when I hear PDG Eric describe the process, You go, you pay, you go to a district office, some people do some documentation, and then it could be frustrating. And it's expensive administering those funds. But we're saying if you have a MasterCard, a local MasterCard, a Kenyan shilling denominated MasterCard, Visa card, you don't need to go through that process anymore. Just log on to my Rotary, go to Give Now once you log on, and put in your card details. And you can instruct them, please take $100 every 3 months. Take $10 every month, and that will be $120. So $100 per capita is already out for you. I'm a member of the PLENARY Society, not because I'm giving $1,000 at once. I call it PLENARY Society member by trick. I simply ask them, take $250 every 3 months. And that means in a year, I give $1,000. And that makes me a PLENARY Society member. And you know what, my dear friends, when the first $250 was taken, I didn't notice it. Because it was almost equivalent to what the banks will have put as charges anyway at the end of the month. And so it is for many of you. So it is for many of you. But by the time they took the second one, I had noticed. Because before then, I had gotten a nicely written letter thanking me for that donation and telling me what it is being used for. And so it will happen, whether it is $10 you give, $100, $1,000, whatever you can afford, give something to our Rotary Foundation. Just go to rotary.org to contribute. And I'm sure if you ask PDG Eric Kimani after now, he'll be able to give you a paper form that you actually fill up. In fact, you can even make the contribution by telephone call to a number. People have talked about this, so I won't talk about it anymore. Major gifts. I wanted to let you know that it is now possible for you to have a fund named after you or your family with the Rotary Foundation. So with $25,000 to an endowed fund, you can actually have an Emmanuel Katongele fund. With the Rotary Foundation, telling them how you want it spent. And you can grow that in your lifetime. I'm working on that now. Every year I just put something into it and it's growing. And every year there's a report going to the district that tells the district how much interest that money has yielded. And so to note that my district has access to some $650 they could use as DDF to fund a project from my contribution. And this is in perpetuity. If I die tomorrow, my district will continue, some people will continue to benefit even when I'm not there. And I'm sure that is what many of us would like to achieve. So, my dear friends, the Rotary Foundation is your foundation. Let's make Rotary our charity of choice.
I'd like to, having served as an RPIC for a number of years, we've had an opportunity to receive some training and to train. And a number of years ago, we were trained by none other than Caroline Deritu. She's a motivational speaker, a public speaking coach, and a poet extraordinaire. And she taught us how to manage the graveyard shift in presentations. And currently, sorry, it seems like this my presentation's been running. Okay, and I know I've got the graveyard shift this time. All right, so I'm gonna indulge me so that I can so that we can both participate in this presentation. Would that be okay? When I say ka-ching, you say. When I say kaboom, you say. Ka-ching, kaboom. Kaboom, ka-ching, kaboom. All right, okay. I can see that you're slightly awake. Well, we'll see if we can continue with this. All right. Before I start, I had the opportunity of meeting Rick King, past President Rick King, this morning, And I mentioned to him that I will be making similar speeches in Nigeria, in Yinka's district next week. And I told him I was going to copy his speeches. But after seeing that performance this morning, wow. I think let's just give him a round of applause. That was such a really touching presentation. And so there's no way, I can't sing that well. I can rap, but I can't sing. Right, and I thought it was such a great, a really great presentation, and helps us be able to explain what Rotary is. And a number of years ago, overwhelmingly said that Rotary was not having the impact in the communities that they were serving. Surveys that had been done in 167 countries around the world, and various Rotarians of various leadership positions and clubs had been asked what they thought of Rotary and how they thought Rotary was perceived. And it was quite clear that Rotary was not getting the kind of visibility that it required. People didn't understand what Rotary was and what Rotary was doing. So usually the presentation, we would build up into a presentation and then get to the punchline. But this time I'm going to start with the punchline and basically talk about and reveal what I'm talking about. This is all about the Strengthening Rotary initiative to be able to tell the true story of Rotary with clarity and focus, so that donors, members or potential members and others would like to participate in our programs and so that they can have more impact. And the simple line that explains our core, the simple line that explains our essence is Rotary unites leaders to exchange ideas and take action to improve communities everywhere. And this simple line is not a tagline, but it's the core. It's really the simplicity to help people understand what Rotary is and what Rotary does, and so that they can participate in our programs. So, why strengthen Rotary? The board and the trustees started to ask the question, what is Rotary? How does Rotary have an impact in the societies? Why is Rotary relevant in the world today? And this question we need to answer. If we want to get people to get involved in our programs, we need to be able to answer these questions. And the other reason we need to be able to answer these questions is because of the statistics. And the statistics don't look very good. 4 in 10 people have never heard, around the world, 4 in 10 people around the world have never heard of Rotary. Another 4 in 10 have only know Rotary by name. And then 20% of people around the world claim they have familiarity with Rotary. But the challenge there is that a lot of them have misconceptions about Rotary. And Sam Owori spoke about that quite clearly. They think that we're an old man's club. You know, I always ask the question, what's wrong with old men? There's nothing wrong with old men. Ka-ching! Kaboom! Anyway, so we need to be able to get our awareness of what Rotary does and what Rotary is. Because when people really know what we're doing, then they want to participate. The donors want to come together with us into projects. People want to join so that they can be able to have the benefit of being in a club like ours and to be able to have an impact in the communities. So because of that low level of awareness, we're not really able to reach our full potential. Because people don't know what we are doing and they're not able to bring in their contributions, and we're therefore not able to grow our clubs like we should. Sam Owori said that we've been 1.2 million for such a long time, and unless we're able to get our people to know what we're doing, we won't be able to grow. So let's talk about the power of a brand, and I want us to talk about some of the some other brands that we know of and that we know of well. Most of these you will see the logo without the name, but then they're very recognizable. So Apple, we know that Apple's essence is It's simplicity, creative, and they've been throughout everything that they do, their products, their retail experience, they're able to bring across their essence quite strongly. And this is one of the things that has made them top the Forbes list of the most valuable brand around the world for the last 3 years. You look at BMW, the ultimate driving experience. They've been using that tagline for the last 25 years, the ultimate driving experience. And they are giving drivers that ultimate driving experience and creating a very strong brand, and that is selling extremely well around the world. And of course, Coca-Cola. The essence of Coca-Cola is to provide refreshment, fun, and freedom. And when you look at their website and you look at all their advertisements, you realize that their charity and their CSR is done with the same sort of verve and energy. Red Cross. Red Cross is disaster management. Last year alone, 70,000. They worked in 70,000 cases. 7 million people around the world felt the impact of the Red Cross. And they have an extremely strong brand that we all know. And so what about Rotary? We need to make Rotary clear to everybody. They need to be able to understand what we are. They need to be able to recognize our logo. And when we did the research, we found that most people were confused. They didn't really know what Rotary was. We had so many different logos, every district doing its own thing, every club doing its own thing, every Rotary program having its own logo. And this was creating confusion across the board, not just externally, but also internally. So we have to have a clarity and focus in how we speak to the external audiences and internal audiences as well. So, ka-ching, kaboom. What is Rotary? When people around the world, Rotarians around the world were asked this question, what is Rotary? There were so many varying answers. So many varying answers. We were not clear. We're not clear ourselves how to explain what Rotary is to others, people who are not members of Rotary. But we put together a very simple essence statement. And this simple essence statement really takes what's at the core of Rotary so that we can be able to explain it with clarity and focus. And that if anybody asks the question to any one of you Rotarians, you'll be able to answer that question easily, and we'll be able to do it with consistency across the board. 34,000 clubs around the world, 1.2 million Rotarians. If each one of those is consistent in their message, then Rotary will get its message out there. Ka-ching! So, Rotary unites leaders. It's about membership, it's about connections. The core of our membership organization is about those connections that keeps us coming back, that keeps us strong. And that strength, we use our strengths to exchange ideas and finally to take action and have an impact on the societies that we serve. So this is Rotary. This is the core essence of Rotary. Like I said before, it's not a tagline, but it's what we're going to use to be able to tell our story. Tell our story in a very personal way. Tell our story in the way that we tell those Rotary moments, so that people will then want to take part in our programs. So for example, when you look at this example flyer, it's all about giving a call to action. A call to action to the audiences, the people, to the community. You know, what can you do to improve the situation and hunger? It's all about action photos, and it's very little about Rotary speak. Ka-ching, kaboom. I remember one of my club members asked me where I had been a few weeks ago, and I said I had gone to Rotary. I'd gone to a Coordinators Institute. It was the RPIC's, the RC's, the RRFC's, and the EMGA's annual institute. So now that's Rotary speak. And if you speak, I mean, I'm sure. How many of you know what all that is? Okay, well, you see, even internally we have that challenge. We have a challenge of a lot of Rotary speak, and when we're talking to external audiences, we need to cut down that Rotary speak. We need to make it simple, clear, and consistent, so that they know what we are. So, looking at a couple of local messages. When we were able to get this interview put onto the Business Daily, which is one of the premier newspapers in the country, we were able to sit across from a journalist and explain to her what we were trying to do to end polio. And the story did carry the name of Rotary and said what Rotarians were doing with government, with the WHO and the Bill and Melinda Gates to end polio. But it really spoke about it from a very human interest perspective, and not from our perspective as Rotarians and how the pride that we have around it, but in ways that it really means something to the readers and the readers of the Business Daily. And again, when we did the billboard campaign a number of years ago, again we were trying to take it away from Rotary banging its chest, but showing that Rotarians are ordinary people trying to do extraordinary things. And it's really about having an authentic voice. And when we looked at using Rotary's voice and having a consistent message across the board, there was really 4 elements to Rotary's voice. First was, it's smart. We use our connections. We look at things from different perspectives because of our varied backgrounds, and we're able to come up with really smart solutions for the communities. Number 2, it's compassionate. We can emotionally connect with the people that we're trying to help. And that connection makes us even more effective. We're persevering. 109 years. Rotary has been around for 109 years, and we have been doing good in the world for 109 years. You cannot question our commitment. And finally, it's inspiring. It's about getting people to stand up and do something good for their communities. We do that every day, and we do that with our partners. We do that with our donors as well. So when we're crafting our messages, these are the key things around our voice that will make it authentic and that will make it inspiring to our audiences, both internal and external. So having a consistent message, having an authentic voice, this is what those global brands are doing. This is what the global brands I showed you earlier are doing, and many other brands. And for Rotary, with our diverse cultures, our diverse backgrounds, being in so many different countries, different perspectives, it's important for us to bring that consistent message and bring it with an authentic voice, something that really is Rotary's, something that really is ours. And Rotary's brand is not the logo. It's not the district. It's actually you. It's you, it's your clubs. And one of the things that we know about Rotary is that, or about Rotary is, and marketing Rotary, is the one-on-one conversations are the conversations that get people to understand who we are. That one-on-one marketing. Just think about every time you've introduced a member into your club. It has to be through that one-on-one marketing. It's not that little card that District Governor Harry talked about earlier. That card will help you to be able to explain what Rotary is. It'll give them something to go and think about. But at the end of the day, it's that one-on-one. So Rotary brand really is you. So our visual identity. This is part of the Strengthening Rotary Initiative. It's not the Strengthening Rotary Initiative. It's only part of it. And having a strong visual identity that provides that consistency and focus is extremely important to be able to communicate our message. Over time, you've seen brands evolving, and you look at the Apple brand, the IBM brand, and the Mercedes brand. You know, the original logos, and you don't recognize them, but you can recognize the new ones. because over time they change to reflect culture, they change to reflect graphical styles. And so it is with Rotary. Over time, our brand image, the Rotary logo has evolved. And now the logo has evolved to a point where we need to ensure that we can communicate to external audiences. Most of us, all of us in this room, when we see that Rotary wheel, we can connect to it immediately. But for external audiences, they have a challenge trying to read those small letters in the wheel. And depending on the size, it gets even harder to read. So now the word Rotary has been put very strong next to our Rotary wheel, next to our what we call the mark of excellence, so that when you're driving by a billboard, you will see the wheel, but you'll see the word Rotary, and you'll be able to connect to what it is immediately. So this is the new logo and the new branding device that we have, and it's very flexible. You can use it in various colors. The two primary colors are the blue and the dark yellow, but you can use it in different colors and different styles, on photographs and in different formats. There's a brand new guideline on how we can use this logo, so that your clubs can immediately begin to adopt the new image, and so that we can have that consistent and focused message across the board. And if you go to www.rotary.org Brand Center, you will find all these branding elements that you can use. And I'll talk a little bit more about the Brand Center in a moment. And the trustees adopted the logo so that we can also continue to have a consistent message. And again, you can see that it's also quite, you can use it in different ways. And finally, I created this, in just a matter of about 4 minutes. And this is something that your clubs can start to do immediately. Your clubs, your districts can start to do immediately to adopt the new Rotary branding images or branding device, and to create that clarity and focus across the board. So the Brand Center, in the Brand Center you will find templates. Anybody can go into the Brand Center as long as you're registered on My Rotary. And when you get into the Brand Center, you can find templates for brochures, templates for business cards. You can find examples of other work that Rotarians are doing, or image work that Rotarians are doing across the world. And you can then use that as an inspiration for your club. You can use that as inspiration for your districts to be able to get the consistent branding. And you'll find lots and lots of interesting examples from around the world. So you could take the videos in the Brand Center and start to put them onto your websites immediately. So that's rotary.org/brand center. Ka-ching, kaboom, kaboom, ka-ching, ka-ching, kaboom. So what can you do? Well, number one is to adopt our voice and visual identity. Download the guidelines immediately, share them among your club members and those who are responsible for the image. Create your own club logo. You could really start there. Use the templates as a starting point. And then use images to inspire your audiences. Use images to be able to inspire the people around you and those that you would like to become members and those that you would like to work with as donors. Tell compelling stories. And some of the stories that I hear from Rotarians every day, some of the stories that I hear from you, very strong and very compelling. We then have a challenge when it comes to putting that into written material, putting that into our websites. But with these branding guidelines and with these ideas, it'll help you tell those stories in ways that they can have impact to audiences internally and externally. Update your website and your Facebook page. These are things you can do right away. Plan and budget for success. We need to plan our public image initiatives. We need to map out our events. We need to put the right teams in place, people who have the energy, the experience, the knowledge. And then finally, let's give them a clear budget. At the district level and also at the club level, let's give them a budget, because they will need a budget to be able to implement these ideas And then finally, bang the drum and do not stop. So it's adopt the new voice and visual identity. Tell compelling stories with consistent messages. Update your website and your Facebook page. Plan and budget for your marketing. And finally, bang the drum and don't stop. We've got to keep banging this drum and we're not going to stop. So the end result, with 1.2 million members, delivering a consistent message, we will have a stronger brand, we'll have more members, donors and partners, and we will have greater impact. And we will be able to achieve Sam's vision for Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to me this afternoon. And before I go, ka-ching, kaboom, and I'd like you all to promise to be Rotary champions.
It's wonderful when a past district governor is invited to give a speech at a place where he's already been, because people take the risk that they're going to hear something they've already heard before. And I can remember being governor in my district over 30 years ago in Silicon Valley. I was working very, very hard, and I went to all the clubs in the district, as you governors do, and I gained some weight. I don't know whether Harry's gained any weight this year, but I gained some weight. Now, my wife is a dancer. She has a degree in economics and finance, but her great love was dancing, and she danced in Hollywood. I met her, as a matter of fact, in my Las Vegas review, and she's physically fit, as you can tell. She does aerobics and stays the same weight all the time. She saw me coming out of the shower one morning, dripping wet, with a towel around me that wouldn't reach. And I could tell by the look on her face we were going to have a conversation I wasn't going to enjoy. We did, and I didn't. She said, "Why don't you get fit?" She went over to Woolworths. In those days we had Woolworth stores. And she bought a little trampoline for $29.95. You don't get a big trampoline for $29.95. It was a small one, very small. And she stuck it up in the corner of our bedroom, underneath the rotary wheel in the ceiling that lights up every 2 or 3 hours all night. And I looked like a little spaceship from Mars. And I said, "Sherry, what is that?" She said, "It's a trampoline. You jump up and down on it every morning and you'll get fit." I couldn't think of anything I'd rather less do. But I thought, what the heck, I love my wife, I'd better jump. So I began jumping up and down on this trampoline every morning. And I hated every minute of it. But on the third day, I got so engrossed in what was on the television that I came down on the edge of the trampoline instead of in the middle, and I broke my leg. And I was so happy this happened after only 3 days. And I could throw that trampoline away. And I didn't have to jump on it any morning because, of course, when you break your leg, you got to wear a cast. And I wore a cast to all my club visits because, you know, it takes a lot more than a loose brain or a broken leg for a governor not to show up to give his speeches to the clubs. And I got get well cards from all of the clubs in my district, which showed how much they loved me and respected me, the way I know you love and respect Harry and will next year, Bimmel. And this is the one that they sent me. It's kind of patriotic for an American. It's got the American flag on the cover. And it says, "The President and I both want you to get well soon." Ronald Reagan was president at the time. I thought this was awfully nice of him to send me a get well message. But what was really touching was the message that the club president wrote me inside in his own handwriting, taking the time out of his very busy presidential year. "Dear Governor Rick, we'd like you to know that the Rotary Club of San Lorenzo, California, by a vote of 17 to 15, hopes you recover." There was a touching PS on here. "We were going to send you flowers, but that lost 5 to 27. Every president of Rotary has a theme. Ron Burton's great theme, "Engage Rotary, Change Lives," is a theme that we can all understand because our own lives are changed because of our work in Rotary. I chose my theme from Charles Dickens' immortal classic, A Christmas Carol, "Mankind is our business." Now, the people who create Rotary merchandise love these annual changes of themes because, of course, we put the themes on t-shirts, hats, neckties, pins, underwear, socks. Sherry and I have my Rotary theme and a Rotary wheel in the ceiling in the bed where we sleep every night. It's very exciting. And we put it on blazers and so forth. And most of the time, we put it on neckties. Sherry, would you hand me that file? And I went to Como, Italy. Thank you. I went to Como, Italy, and had them create a woven silk tie. I didn't want a polyester tie. I wanted a silk tie. And there was a member of the board of directors named Mario Grassi, and he owned a silk factory in Como, Italy. And I said, I want a very fine Rotary tie. And on the back of this tie, I can't open this because I got too much of this folio here, but it's a very fine woven silk. I wore mine the last couple of days, and on the back in very discreet letters it says, "Mankind in our business." I gave these neckties out to heads of state all over the world. We visited 43 heads of state, 28 of whom were very active in their Rotary clubs. So I gave one to the Prime Minister of France, and the Prime Minister of Great Britain, and the President. I gave one to President Chen of Taiwan. Somebody mentioned, I think Sam mentioned Taiwan today. They're very strong in Rotary there, Sam, as you know. And I gave one of these to President Chen, the President of Taiwan. He'd been in Rotary about a dozen years. And I was very excited. He got so excited when he received this tie that he gave me a check for $5 million US, which I thought was a fair exchange. I was kind of hoping, Harry, it was the speaker's fee, to be honest with you. But it turned out, of course, to be a contribution from the government of Taiwan to our polio eradication campaign. I gave one of these to Pope John Paul II. I never saw him wear it, but I know he had one. The thing about it is that when I got done being president, there was a whole bunch of them left over, and they shipped them out in a moving van, if you can believe it, to our home in Silicon Valley out in California, near San Francisco. And they're in these cardboard boxes underneath the bed where we sleep. Sherry and I sleep in a California King every night, and we sleep with an Alaskan Malamute. That's not another Rotarian, that's a big hairy dog. And a wolf, a timber wolf, named Duke and Duchess. And every time the Rotary wheel in the ceiling lights up in our bed, and it starts to sing my theme song, "Sing out a song of Rotary," Duchess the wolf goes, "Ow!" But the Malamute can't stand her howling, so he puts his paws over his ears, and he jumps underneath the bed, and he starts chewing on these boxes. He does, and these boxes contain these Rotary ties. And I don't think the Malamute has the same respect for them that you're supposed to have. So every time I go to a Rotary event, my wife says, "Can't you get rid of it? Can't you present another one of those sacred ties?" So I want to present these today, first of all, to the governor of this district, the one and only Harry Mugo. Harry, would you come here? Thank you. Where's Harry? I forgot how to say ka-ching and kaboom, but anyway, I'm glad you're still awake. And I don't expect a check for $5 million. Thank you, Harry. Thank you for your hospitality. And I want to present one of these neckties. My aide was right behind me a minute ago. To Eric. You know, Eric's been a wonderful, wonderful aide. I'm high maintenance, and he's been terrific. Harry, thank you for giving our aid to Margaret, and Sherry's got a gift for Margaret, but she'll do that tomorrow. But I want you to have, did you take one of these ties? You already took one. Don't you love the way we do this so formally? Here you are, Eric.
Thank you
Very much.
Thank you.
And I met the patriarch of governors in this district a long time ago, and I've loved him deeply. He's a giant of the Rotary world. His reputation is known far and wide. Youssef, please accept one of these ties for me. The guy's 85 years old and still doing surgery, for crying out loud. I'd want to make sure I had a lot of insurance. Fellow Rotarians, the one and only, the giant of the Rotary world. God bless you. Well, we appreciate the programs. Sam, it was wonderful. Really wonderful. I didn't know you were already running for president of Rotary International. But it's obvious you've got a lot of fans in this district. And I appreciate it very much because, of course, membership is very dear to me. And I appreciated the work on the foundation. Wonderful. Now, what has my club got? My club's got a project with a club in this district. We've been waiting months for you guys to get going. So you're going to get this done, right? Good, because I'm going to sue you if you don't. And I enjoyed this marvelous presentation on Rotary's public image. It was, I agree, the best that I'd heard on the subject. It was really very, very well done. And Eric told me that his boss from Nigeria is a very, very competent past district governor. You wore an orange and brown plaid sport coat, but other than that, your kajings and gabooms were great. No, I know that those came from Joe. It takes a lot to get this work done, but I've always believed it's God's work on earth. I believe that it's more important than anything else we do. I believe that it's more important to be successful in the business of Rotary work than it is even in our own professional work. Oh, of course, we have to be successful in our careers. We have to pay our mortgages, educate our kids, feed the family, and on and on and on. And of course, we all have to do that, and it's important to do it well, and most Rotarians do. But I believe that no success, no matter how many college degrees are on the wall, no matter how many applause we get from our peers, no matter how much money we make, no matter how much fame we achieve, no material success can ever compensate if we fail in the business of humanity, if we fail in the business of mankind. It is the only business that we're going to take with us when we leave this life. It's the only business we'll take with us when we move into eternity. It is the business of helping one another, of loving one another, and so in doing, engaging Rotary and enhancing our own lives. I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. Sometimes it requires a little money, sometimes it requires a little time, sometimes it requires blood, sweat, and tears, sometimes we get into disputes and arguments, sometimes it's not easy. But I've always liked the words of Bishop Fulton J. Sheen when he said, don't worry about it. Do it anyway. If they're kicking you in the rear, you must be out in front.